Here's how we design a workshop to make sure that the right people show up, and when they hear our message, they're excited to be there. Now, they may not be excited why they showed up, but they feel like they're in the right place. So in this video, I'm going to go through the entire process we use to go from working with the therapist for the first time, helping them identify who it is that they want to help, how we back end into the type of offer that we make, and then the structure for the actual workshop. So let me get into it with you. One of the first things that I would have you think about is most of the time when we talk to therapists, they're radically undercharging for what it is that they can help somebody do. Now, to be clear, one of the most important pieces about running a workshop isn't that you just are going to get people to show up and they're going to throw their wallet over the fence and they're going to say, please work with me. These are not insurance people. Insurance people show up because they want to use the benefit, not because they're really interested a lot of times in actually getting a result. They're happy to just sit on your couch or on Zoom week after week after week because they're not coming out of pocket. It's a benefit that's already baked into their life. Now you get somebody that would invest in a package with you at $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $20,000. They're leaning in and wanting to do the work so that they can actually get a result. And so how we engineer and structure this process isn't just, hey, I'm going to help you with your anxiety, or, you talk about the latest modality that you use, art, CBT, you name it, whatever it is. They've got to understand the more certainty we can bring to the process, the more likely they are to invest in an outcome. Now, before you think it, maybe you've already thought it, it's like, how can I guarantee outcomes? We're not talking about guaranteeing outcomes, but think about this. Is it reasonable to think that if your best fit client showed up and they actually did the work the way that they needed to do the work and the specific steps, the specific order, if they showed up consistently, is it reasonable to think that they would get a result? If they don't get a result, this video isn't for you. You're not good at what you do. What I'm talking about is somebody that shows up, they do the work in the right order, and the likelihood of them now getting an outcome is extremely high because they're doing the correct work. Okay. So we're talking about our best fit clients. So when I'm talking about best fit clients, I'm talking about people that actually engage and do the work. Most therapists, they just have people show up and it's like kind of willy-nilly. It's like, I'm just going to listen to them. And then I've got kind of my process. I hear this all the time. Well, I don't know what my process is. I just kind of feel out each situation. That's the difference between an amateur and somebody who's excellent, is they have a process that they can move somebody through so that they can take them from where they are to where they want to be. They can identify exactly where they're stuck. And then the process from going from stuck to free, which is what your client wants. All right. So now here's how we initially do that. First thing we want is we want to make sure that we understand what we want to charge and how we want to package our offer. Now, this isn't just making an offer and saying, well, I'd like to charge $5,000, and you hope that people pay $5,000. You need to start at a place where mentally you can confidently communicate this offer. Okay. You have to be able to confidently communicate it. I've had therapists come in and they're like, well, they've never worked outside of insurance, billing $180 to $120. They're like, I want to make a $10,000 offer. And I'm like, okay, pitch me the $10,000 offer. And they stumble and they choke and they just have no confidence because their belief system isn't that they're worth a $10,000 offer. And so I'm like, hey, we're not going to start at a $10,000 offer. We need to start where, yes, it's a little bit uncomfortable because it's stretching you, because you've been conditioned to only charge $80 to $120 because that's what the insurance company says you can charge. But my belief isn't that everybody should just raise their rates. You've got to raise your identity so that you can raise your rates. The other thing is you dial in your process. Dialing in your process will increase your confidence, which will increase how you communicate to your best client. And so as your process gets more dialed in, your identity increases and you recognize like, oh my gosh, I'm actually worth this. Like the CEOs that I work with, Like they're unlocking millions of dollars in revenue. Why wouldn't they invest $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 to work with me? Because I can help them see the patterns that are keeping them stuck, as an example. So understanding that well, let me back up just a little bit. In terms of your offer as well, you also need to offer something to the marketplace that they want. There's two ways that you can make offers. So just imagine that you sell water, okay? You sell bottles of water, bottles of spring water. You could either set up the bottles of spring water on a table right next to a fresh stream. How difficult is it going to be to sell those bottles of water? They're going to look at you and say, I'm just going to drink out of here. I'm going to dip my own canteen in the water and I'm good. Or you can set your table up with these bottles of water at the end of a 10-mile hike where people are going to be exhausted. They're going to want to drink. And you set the table up and you say, fresh spring water. How many of these people after a 10-mile hike are now going to flock to your table? What's the likelihood that now you're meeting the demand of where they're at? That's what I'm talking about, an offer. I see so many times people get too cute with an offer. You can either have an offer where you have to go to the marketplace and then you've got to try and cram it down their throat and convince them that they should want something that they don't even want, or you just take your offer where there's already a burning desire in the marketplace. You just give them what it is that they already want. Okay, you give the mom a path to not waking up every single morning and yelling at her kids, dropping them off at school, saying, have a great day, and then coming home and crying or feeling bad all day and living in that loop. As soon as she wakes up, heart just starts pounding. She's got massive anxiety because she's about to repeat a morning that she dreads repeating. And you can walk her through the process to eliminate that in her life. That's what I'm talking about, is you want an offer that meets somebody where they're at in their demand. Here's the other thing too, is I have a client. She specifically works with women that believe that the unhappiness in their marriage is there's a direct correlation to their husband's behavior. Or in another sense, they believe that they're unhappy because their husband won't change. And so her entire process is about helping them uncover the lie that they're believing about why it is that they're stuck and so unhappy because of him. Now, she's not discounting the fact that he may yell, right? He may not help out around the house. He may be a narcissist, whatever the situation is. But what she helps them uncover is that the reason that they're unhappy has nothing to do with him. It's because they've given away their power and outsourced their happiness in their life. So she helps uncover the lie. She helps them take their power back. Anyways, my whole point with that is initially her messaging isn't actually you're the problem, your husband's not the problem. Because she's going into a marketplace where the belief is to these women that they've been unhappy for years because of their husband's behavior. So to come in and just immediately try and destroy an entire belief system that she thinks is true, but it's obviously just her belief, and to come in with that kind of message, she would get no traction. Okay, so what she comes in with is messaging that grabs them and pulls them in, where they're saying, yeah, that's me. My husband is a piece of crap. Hey, have you ever been at the kitchen sink and you've just cooked the dinner and now you're doing the dishes by yourself and he's just over there sitting on the couch scrolling on his phone, not helping out? What happens is with that kind of messaging, women interject and they're like, yeah, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. And so then we designed a workshop that helps them uncover the fact that their happiness has nothing to do with their husband's behavior. And in fact, he may never change his behavior. So if he never changes his behavior, are you willing to just sit back and accept the fact that you're going to be unhappy because he doesn't change? And so her entire process is uncovering the lie, giving them their power back. Anyways, my point is you also want to come into the market with messaging that matches the problem that your best fit client believes that they have, not the one that you might know that they have. So like in this case, she knows the problem is that they're in a victim cycle. There's a lie underneath that they're telling themselves. They've outsourced the responsibility and accountability in their life. She knows all of those things. And as they move through her program, they uncover those things, and they're always just, it's so impactful. And initially, as you can imagine, people get ignited, they get triggered, and sometimes it goes to like a DEFCON 10 before they realize, like, oh my gosh, this is really, what's true is he was on the couch surfing on his phone. What's not true is he does show me other ways that he loves me. Or what's true is I wanted him to help out with the dishes, but I didn't communicate with him that I wanted him to help out with the dishes, like unspoken expectations. So I digress a little bit, but leaning in, and you've got two ways you can make an offer, which is trying to force the market to see your way, or coming in and messaging to the way that they already see it. You're going to find that you're going to have a much better time doing that. Okay. So that's just a little bit around offers. When we lay out a workshop, is we want to understand who our ideal client profile is. Now, I'm sure you've gone through exercises like this. This isn't just like, this gets really, really granular. And the reason that you want to understand the psychographics and demographics of your ideal client is because you don't just want people that are willing to do the work. You want people that are also able to do the work. And I've talked about this in some of my other videos, is if you're not careful in your messaging and the way that you craft your offer, you'll attract people that can't afford to work with you, which is probably part of the problem in your practice right now. Is you're attracting people that kind of treat you like a commodity because they're just using a benefit, their insurance, to work with you. So they'll trade you out for another therapist that accepts their insurance because there is no additional value built in how you operate. And so here we want to make sure that our messaging speaks to somebody that not only is willing to work on the problem, but is able because they can afford it. Now, I want you to think about this. I want you to think about your best fit client. Think about some of the clients that you've had over the years, or maybe you've got currently in your practice. If you're seeing 25, 30, 35 people a week, you probably have a favorite client or two, or maybe more. I want you to think about your best fit client. Again, your best fit client is somebody who's willing to lean in and do the work to actually get the result, and they can pay you what it is that you feel like your time's worth. So I want you to imagine you get to call 5 of these best fit clients. You call them on the phone and you say, hey, I know you really want to make sure that tomorrow you can wake up and not yell at your kids and end up crying in the car by the end of the day, right? And I have a way that I can guarantee that by tomorrow, that'll be gone forever. Like tomorrow would be the last day that you ever guarantee yell at your kids and end up crying in the car because you got triggered and you fell back into that loop again. And she says, okay, I'm in. It's okay. I need you to meet me down at the beach at 5 a.m. And just come, just trust me. She says, okay, I'll be there. So you get all 5 of these people down to the beach, and you've got a lamp, and inside the lamp, you've got one wish. Okay, one wish that can happen from this genie in this lamp. Now go with me. I promise you. I'll turn the car and we'll make the loop, and this will connect for you. Now inside this lamp, who you're going to create? Basically, you're going to bid out this wish. So you've got 5 people, and the highest bidder is going to win this wish from this lamp. Okay, so think about this. You've got 5 people. How much would those 5 people bid on that one wish if they knew that it was guaranteed to solve whatever their problem is? Guaranteed. How much would a mom pay if she knew for the rest of her life she was never going to wake up and scream at her kids because they're a little slow at getting their shoes or their backpack together or whatever? Okay? How much would she pay to know that she wouldn't wake up every single morning with massive anxiety or just struggle with massive mom guilt? Okay, I want you to think about that. Would it be $200? $300? Again, guaranteed. Like it was going to solve their problem that day. And they knew it. Would it be $500? I do this exercise in workshops, and it's not uncommon for me to see $5,000, $10,000, sometimes $20,000, depending on the problem that you specifically solve for your client, whatever it is. Just think about what problem you solve for your specific client. If they knew tomorrow that they could solve that problem, guaranteed, they no longer had to show up or feel the way that they do, what would their bid look like? Very rarely, matter of fact, never do I hear, oh, they would pay $150 a session. Well, if they paid $150, it'd be one time and the problem would be solved forever. So the most they would get out of it is $150. Here's the challenge. I do this exercise because I want you to connect the fact that it's not that people aren't willing to invest more, it's how your offer is positioned and communicated that they don't even realize how valuable it is. Because they go on Psychology Today and they see that you specialize in helping women with anxiety. It's like, okay, I mean, it's better than just listing all your credentials, which is what most therapists do, but nothing really big about that. And so our messaging needs to speak to them in a way that they're already communicating to themselves, whether internally or externally. So sometimes these are conversations that they've never said any of this stuff out loud to anybody. Like they don't even talk about it with their in this case, the mom, they don't even talk about it with their sisters. They don't even talk about it with their mom. Like nobody knows. So there's the conversations that are happening with their mom and their sister and her group of girlfriends. And then there's the conversation that she keeps internally because she doesn't want to say it out loud because she's afraid it'll make her feel like a bad person, right? Which in this case could be, I wouldn't yell if my kids were just behave better. All right. So we have a therapist that works with that specific audience. And you could lead in with and say, it's because of all these other reasons, maybe some childhood trauma or whatever. But she's not going to hear you because her belief is that she wouldn't yell at her kids if they were just better behaved. And so that's the messaging that we lead with. So I want you to think about that in terms of like your offer, like what value and outcome do you help somebody get? Because if you're going to do this, you stop taking people that go at this willy-nilly. They kind of show up for one session, then they don't show up for another month, and then they show up again, and then they don't show up for 2 weeks, and they never get any real traction because they don't show up consistently. That's why we're talking about attracting clients in that actually show up and do the work, which is why now that they show up and do the work, we can accurately articulate exactly where they're at and walk them through a process that helps them see that the likelihood of getting what they want is increased drastically if they lean in and do the work with us. Okay. So we want to understand when we build out our ideal client profile, what are those things that are being said? Okay. The other thing we want to do is we build out a full research report. Okay. The research report, we go into forums like Reddit, for example, and we look at I don't know if that's how you spell it. I'm pretty sure that's how you spell Reddit, but we go into these forums and places where our ideal client would be. If it's men, it may be in car groups, Facebook groups, whatever. And we pull the exact words that they're using to describe their situation. Okay, so if they're men that are frustrated in their marriage with their wives, okay, for example, as a man, frustrated, my wife never wants to be intimate. We want to go in and we want to pull his exact language about how he's holding a frame around his current situation. So we do an extreme research-driven deep dive. The other part of this research-driven deep dive is we look at the competition of people. We want to know who else is marketing to our ideal client profile. Because a lot of times it's not about recreating something new. It's about how do we reposition it so it makes sense for the way we want to communicate to the marketplace. Okay. So we've got our ideal client profile. We then take that ideal client profile, we do research. Now, once we do the research, now we look at how do we now create an offer that is what these people want based on the ideal client profile and the research. Again, this makes sure that when we're creating our offer, it's something that they actually would want. My example of, we want to make sure that we're selling the water at the end of the hike, not where they're not going to be thirsty because there's a fresh stream right next to them. Okay. So now once we've got the offer, now we take these three things and we'll create our initial workshop layout. Okay. Now, some of the most important things with the workshop how the workshop is laid out. Your title of your workshop matters. We spend a pretty good, healthy amount of time making sure that we understand what the workshop title would look like. For example, we've done all kinds of workshops. Clients by Christmas, clients during the summer. Okay, your title needs to match Private Pay Client Workshop. Okay, become a paid expert. So your title of your workshop, I'm not going to give you titles for our clients because we have NDAs because we partner with them. So I'm not going to give you titles to their workshop, but you want to think about what would the title needs to speak to who it is that I want to show up to the workshop. The other thing is, now how do you package and teach your workshop? Okay, we call that a unique. How do we create a unique mechanism, one that's not just made up, that describes how somebody moves through this path with us, right? So if this is where they're starting, hopefully you can see this, assuming you can. This is where they're starting and they want to be over here where happiness is. Like, what does step 1 look like? What does step 2 look like? What does step 3 look like? Okay, so for example, here, I'll give you an example of what this looks like. So we have one of the processes that we use to describe how we work with people is what we call the PAID framework. Okay, PAID stands for know who your perfect client is, or your best fit client. A is to create an attractive offer that they actually want to say yes to because it clearly solves their problem. I now is, how do you create, I'm going to screw the spelling of this up, an irresistible message. I have 2 languages stuck in my head. I speak fluent Spanish and English. And in Spanish, you write it exactly how it sounds. So I'm just a hot mess in terms of spelling. And then D, now you can deliver the transformation. Okay? In your therapy practice, you're actually in 3 different types of businesses. And if you don't run these businesses right, then you don't get to do what you actually want to do, which is the work with the client, right? If you don't know who it is that you want to attract, your perfect client, you'll just have a practice full of all kinds of people. Chances are this is probably how your practice is laid out now. You don't really have a consistent group of people. You're convinced it's like, oh, well, I love working with this person. I love working with this person. I love working with men who struggle with pornography. I also like working with couples. I like working with kids. And you convince yourself that you're great for everybody. Instead of the truth is, it's impossible that you can be great for everybody. Okay? You just don't know what it looks like to work with somebody that is an expert at working with people. Okay? Like us, we don't work with plumbers. We don't work with electricians. We don't work with fitness coaches, like none of that. We specifically work with licensed therapists that want private pay clients. And we don't even work with newbies. Like, we only work with people that are established, that have actually gotten some client results. Because if you haven't gotten client results, no amount of marketing is going to make up for the fact that you're still not tried, true, and tested yet. We want to work with people that have confidence that they can actually help people get a result. I can't give you confidence that you don't have. You have to bring that to the equation. The workshop is just the way that we get in front of perfect people. We say the right things in the right order, and they raise their hand and say, that's me. I want to do it with you. Here's my wallet. That's what we're talking about. Okay. So we want to understand who our perfect client is. Okay. Create an offer that's easy for them to say yes to. Now we've got to create messaging that gets their attention and keeps their attention, so then we can deliver a transformation with them working with us. Now, are there a lot of underlying things that go into this? Yes, of course. And you're probably thinking that too. It's like, gosh, there's 72 other things that go into my process. That's not what I'm talking about. Because if you overwhelm somebody, you're going to create friction, and friction creates indecision. And indecision will keep them from getting into momentum. If they don't get into momentum, then they're not going to lean in and actually do the work and get the results. Okay? So that's what we're talking about here. Is now how in the workshop do you create your unique process in the workshop? Now, here's the other thing. You want to know what it is that they have tried at and failed at. Now, here's why this is important. Because if we don't acknowledge what they've already tried and failed at, think about this, then why would they want to try your thing? Okay, why would they want to work with you? They're just going to brush it off and say, well, I already tried something similar and it didn't work, and I'm done. Okay. The other thing too is if they can't see that what they did before just didn't work and they're not a failure, then they're not going to lean in and do your thing. So it's super important. Like, for example, we have clients that come to us. Take one of our clients, Jordan. Like, she had gone from $16 an hour as an agency therapist, unlicensed, was getting $54 a session, then went out on her own, got into private practice, was doing $150 a session, made $148,000 in take-home income, and still felt like she didn't have the practice that she wanted. And she couldn't figure out how to get in front of the right people. She kind of had a practice that was scattered all over the place with different kinds of best fit clients. And one of the things that I looked at when I said, okay, what are all the things that you've tried? She's like, I've tried posting on social media more. I've tried dancing on Instagram. I've tried Google Ads. I've tried all these things. And I can't get anybody to say yes. She'd even tried workshops. She's like, but nobody said yes. And so the first thing I did was, as I was looking through all of that, I could see like, hey, you're actually a lot closer than you think. I'm not going to tell you who her best fit client was because that's some proprietary information, and kind of there's just not a way I can explain it without exposing some things. So I'm not going to do that. But my point is as I went through and looked at her workshop, is I could see why it wasn't converting immediately. Okay. People didn't have a reason. Remember, when people show up to a workshop, it's all about them. They're like, what can you do for me? And so there weren't certain pieces of the workshop. Matter of fact, one of the things that she wasn't ever hitting on was what they had tried before and failed at, and she wasn't acknowledging that. See, whether you acknowledge it or not, people are still thinking it. They're like, for example, when I told her a workshop, she's like, yeah, I tried workshops. They didn't work. Okay, let me see your workshop. Then as I went through it, I said, well, here's exactly why it didn't work. One, the market doesn't want this offer. So what she was offering, she was trying to force what she wanted into the market instead of making an offer that the market already wanted. So when we aligned a couple of those things, she went and did workshops. As a matter of fact, I just got a text from her this morning. Closed another 2 people at $2,500. So in the last 30 days, she's gotten one client that paid her $6,800 up front. And then she's gotten, I think she's up to 10 clients the last 3 weeks now at $2,500. So she's gotten 11 clients, and whatever that math is, that's 22,500 plus 6. She made call it $29,000-ish dollars. Okay. When she was used to making about $12,000 a month because of how we repositioned her offer, her practice, her messaging. That's the power of understanding who your ideal client profile is, doing some research, and making sure that the offer and the way that you package and communicate what it is that you do speaks to the pains, the hopes, the desires of what your best fit client wants. Okay. Now, let me show you how it is that we create the initial flow for a workshop. First of all, we run ads. Okay. We run ads. Fastest way to know whether something is going to work or not work is to make sure that it's in the front of the right person. Because if it's in front of the right person and it doesn't work, then you've got the wrong message to the marketplace. But I see so many times people are like, oh, I'm gonna release some organic content. It's like, okay, you release some organic content. You may get 200 views. How many of those people are your best fit clients? Okay. We want to test. We can take $20 and we can get a much better idea of what's working and what's not working than trying to just post a bunch of random reels and hope that Instagram or Facebook gives us the reach. Newsflash, Meta wants you to spend money. They have optimized their platform so that you actually want to spend money on ads. Okay, that's where 98% of their revenue comes from, is advertising revenue. So they're not just going to push all of your organic stuff out for free to your best fit client when that doesn't make them any money. Now it does, because if it's good content, it obviously keeps people on the platform, but they want your dollars. They want you swiping your credit card. So one of the things when you create an ad to fill the workshop is you want to make sure your initial ads are pain-based messaging. Okay? You want to speak to the pain. Now, sometimes I get some pullback from therapists like, I don't want to go poke it. It's like, listen, whether you poke it or not, they're feeling it. All right? You're not poking it because you want to be cruel. You're poking it because you can't get their attention. You want to get their attention. You want them to raise their hand. You want them to think, oh my gosh, she's talking about me. Oh my gosh, that's me. That's what we're going for around the pain-based messaging. Because if we can poke the pain, then we can show them how they can go from pain to the pleasure, okay, that they want. So our ads need to be pain-based. Now, here's what's super important. When you write your ads, okay, and you lean into the pain-based messaging, you need to make sure when they come over here to the registration page that you don't lose what we call the scent. Okay, the scent, think of like a hound dog, right? The hound dog gets down, keeps the scent. That's how they track them. Like, that's what we're looking for here. So what they hear over here, whether this is a video, it's an image ad, when they click on your ad that describes the pain, there needs to be a continuation of that. We don't want to lose the scent. We want to make sure that what we message to them here, they also see here. Now, here's where we talk about, hey, pain, but also here's the 4 ways that you don't know about that I'm going to show you how to relieve the pain that you say you're sick and tired of. That's it. Register. Okay? Now, the quality of people that you get to show up to your workshop is determined by your messaging. Most of the time, if I have people that it's like, we had a low amount of people show up to a workshop. It's like, okay, it's your messaging. It's the way you package your offer. It's your topic for the workshop. Like, people don't care. If they cared, guess what? They would show up. All right? They would show up. So super important that your messaging tracks here. Now, what happens is, as soon as somebody registers, you have an entirely new job at this point to do. Now we've got to make sure that they want to show up. Okay, so as soon as they register, we now want to hit them with what we call value. Well, let me back up. There's one more piece to this. Let me back up. Okay, after they register and they go to our thank you page, which is our confirmation page, it's not just like, hey, thanks for registering. Look forward to seeing you. We want to create, the easiest thing to do is to create a bunch of little videos that speak to the most common objections that your best fit client would have. Now, is everybody going to sit and watch those videos? No, but your buyers will. The people that are serious about actually solving the problem. See, what we want to do is we want to close the gap on how long it takes to warm somebody up. I forget his name. Anyways, he's a CEO of a company that does about 250 million. And he was pumping out all kinds of content. He was doing ads, and they wanted to look at what decisions, what did basically their clients do in their process that led them to becoming clients. And here's what they found out. Here's the punchline. Is on average, their clients consumed, I don't know why I wrote a $, 47 minutes of content before they decide to become clients. That's the age that we're in. The age of AI. People can sit down, they can AI anything. Doesn't mean they're getting great responses. Okay. Most of the time it's just crap, because what you get back is a direct reflection of the input that you gave it. So most of the time it's just slop. But my point is these videos here are designed to warm them up like a microwave. Okay. We create the right frame for when they come into the workshop. Hey, here's what it is. Here's what it isn't. In each one of these, we talk about one particular objection that creates a nice frame on how they show up. Now, on top of those videos, we want to create now what we call value dense emails. Okay? These emails are not just, hey, show up at this date and this time. These emails are a lot like those videos. Matter of fact, we're taking the same kind of stuff that they could watch in the videos and we're putting them in the emails. And you may say, well, Terrence, why would we show them the videos and send it to them in emails? Because they ain't paying that close of attention. You think you're the most important thing to them, that they're reading every single email and that they're watching every single video? They're not. Okay. Matter of fact, somebody watches the video and can get the same email and be like, wow, that email was amazing. It's like, well, I saw you watch the video. Yeah, the video is okay. You're also giving people a different way to consume the information. Some people will never watch a video. Some people will, they would rather scroll through and read an email about the thing. That's what we're talking about. So these value dense emails can be case studies of clients that you're working with, how this client was struggling just like you, and here's the process and the reframe that we created, and here's how they got what they wanted, which was happy. And again, you don't have to share the specific, you're not breaking HIPAA here. You want to speak in generalities around their problem, okay? You want to think about, what are the objections that people have? What are their beliefs? Okay, one of the things we do is we create a belief map. What are the things that I've got to get them to believe that if I don't get them to believe, they would never say yes to working with me? Okay, that's what I'm talking about in these value dense emails. And we're sending, 1 to 3 of these a day, all the way leading up to the workshop. Okay, our goal is to start giving them value. Again, this isn't junk. These are things that are creating a frame for how it is that they could think about their situation. Here's the important thing. We're not talking about how we help somebody. We're talking about what we did or why we did it. Okay, we're helping them. We're training them how to think differently about how they view their current problem. We're not getting into the how. Now, here's the biggest thing too with therapists is they're like, Terrence, gosh, you have this little voice in your head that's like, must teach them more. Like, I know so much. I need to teach them more. I need to teach them more. And you teach and teach and teach, and you think you're helping them, but all you do is confusing them. Or they think that they have everything that they need now to go out and try and do the thing on their own. And so when they go out and they try and do the thing on their own, guess what? They go out and they fail at it. And because it doesn't work out the way that they want, they're not going to look at themselves as the reason it didn't work out. They're going to stop and they're going to say, well, what she taught me just doesn't work. And that's when she gets on and leaves a review. And it's like, I attended her workshop. I tried it and it didn't work. All right. That's why you teach what and why. What you do and why you do something, not how. How becomes how they do the actual work with you. Right? Just because you've got a driver's license and I put you in a Ferrari doesn't mean we're both going to drive it the same way. All right? So that's what we're talking about here. So your value dense emails are not how. They're not how. They're what and they're why. What we do and why we do it. Okay? Now, inside the workshop, and I'm going to end here, inside the workshop, we want to choose, when we structure our workshop, our one belief. So everything in a workshop is built around a singular belief. By the way, this is the thing that if we can't get them to agree with us on, nothing else that we say is going to matter. And by the way, The purpose of a workshop isn't to teach them something, it's to get agreement. That's it. It's to get agreement, right? Because if we can't get them to agree on what this one belief is, then they're not going to take us up on the invitation that we make at the end of the workshop to work with us. And so everything that we do gets built around one single belief. All the offers that we make, it's the same reason in this video I told you the story about the genie and the lamp, right? That people are willing to pay more than how you currently have your pricing structured. It's to get you to believe that that can happen. Because if I can't get you to believe that you can increase your prices and it will increase the quality of people you work with, it will increase your happiness, you'll actually build a practice that you love and thrive around, you won't burn yourself out. If you don't believe that there's people out there that would actually invest more than what they're investing in you now, then running a workshop, all of a sudden doesn't become the thing that it needs to become for you, which is a way to gather a bunch of your best fit clients. All these dots are people, by the way, in case you didn't know, people are dots, and getting some of them to lean in and raise their hand when you invite them to work with you without you feeling like, oh, I got to do a bunch of free consultations and convince them that they should want to work with me. No, what these people do is now we have them fill out an application, and now you're just onboarding them. It becomes an interview as they onboard just to make sure they're the right fit, but they will have already decided through the workshop that they want to work with you. Okay? So that is, in a nutshell, there were so many other things I could get into, but those are the big pieces in terms of like how to work in a workshop. Now, we run a partnership model, which means that we don't just build out a workshop. We don't just run ads. That's not what we're interested in doing. We want to work with therapists that actually want to build a business, okay? Because whoever your best fit client is, that needs to be the vision that you carry. Our job isn't to carry your vision. Our job is to help you execute on the vision that you want to create. So if your goal is to do 10K a week like Jordan, or it's to do 20 or 30K, a month, or it's to grow $1 million or $2 million business, that's great. Like, we're partners in multiple practices in California. I own 50% of them. We have other clients. My point is like, we only partner with you. And what that looks like is everything is based on revenue. So we get paid directly from revenue. Yes, there's an investment up front, depending on what it is that you do. You can click the offer doc below this video, and it will outline exactly how we can work together. But again, we only partner. We only want to work with therapists that want all of this stuff taken care of so that you can show up where your genius is and work with the people in a way that aligns with you, not tracking all the data, all the numbers, recording all the videos, doing all the ads, being in the ads manager, creating all the pages, writing the script, building out your program. Yes, we'll do that with you, but we have a very specific way where we'll extract from your big, beautiful brain what you don't even realize is in there, and we'll help craft that into an offer and a workshop that actually gets your best fit clients to say yes and want to work with you at the end. Like Ben. Ben has been an LMFT for 25 years. His very first workshop, he got 14 applications to work with him. He'd never had 14 intakes at a single time ever in the history of his practice. Okay? It had never happened. He did 31 total his first month running 2 workshops. That's the power of workshops. We've got another one running today. She works with her entire workshop. I'm not going to give you the name of it, but she works with people that have like strained relationships. Okay. So people that haven't died, are still alive, but they don't stay connected. So like a mom that doesn't talk to her son anymore, and they're estranged, and she still misses him, right? She's grieving him, even though he's still alive. So she's got, I think, 79 people registered for her workshop today. She'll get somewhere between 7 and 12 people that will apply to work with her. She's an LCSW, okay? Been one for 20 plus years. We want to partner with you. If you know you're great at what you do, but the missing piece has been how to put all this together so that the right people show up and you say the right things in the right order so that they want to say yes. Here's one last promise to you is we don't create all of this and make you sound like somebody you're not, right? We just want to give you the process to be you inside of a framework that actually gets the results so that you can grow and scale in business without it burning you to the ground. So you don't have to spend 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 hours week in and week out just trying to grow your business. So you can click the link below this. There's an offer doc. You can see it describes exactly how we work together. And hope you found this valuable. Go run a workshop. It's the fastest way you can get in the room with 20, 30, 50, 100. Like Jane, she had 3,000 people register to her first workshop. She had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people show up to her first workshop. Okay, Christian women. Okay, she's been a therapist for, I don't know, close to 20 years, maybe even be 30 years. But all of a sudden, she went from an idea to over 3,000 people registered. Or Sean and Mindy. He has a multi-7-figure group practice. His first workshop, he'd never charged more than $150 a session. His first offer, he had 17 people apply for a $5,000 offer. Okay, I won't tell you what he made because I don't want you making decisions based on what somebody else made, but he made more from that single workshop than he had ever taken home in an entire month. I don't know anything about you. This isn't an income claim. I don't know if you're any good. I don't know if you follow through on what you say you're going to do. I don't know if you have any kind of resilience. I don't know if you're coachable. I don't know anything about you. I don't know if you have the capabilities to go generate those type of results. But if you know you do, then hit the doc below. We've got, if after you read the doc, it takes you to an application page, that means applications are open. We only take a handful of partnership clients, okay? Paid partnership clients. I'm stumbling here because I forgot what we call it. Paid expert partnership clients. There we go. I found it. Paid expert partnership clients. And then once it's full, we shut it down. So anyways, hope you found this helpful. Go be great. Nothing else pays.